Who else do we have, Michelle?
Zachman's.
Zachman's?
It's Shirley Zachman's on there.
Hey, Shirley, hello. Oh,
And I
oh, we
think
got,
Bonnie's on.
oh, Bonnie, yep. Cal and Bonnie Kangas. Wonderful. Okay. All right, let's go right up here, Steve.
I'm Steve Quick, the Solicitor.
Scott Schwacky.
Carolyn Isaac.
Gary Gordner.
Dan Carlson, you can tell by the glare.
Nancy Hesberger.
Jim Hesworth.
Larry Curtis.
Lorraine Curtis.
Jim Azure.
Andrew Hunter. Jackie Frank.
Dave Robinson. Yes, okay. Let's see who's in the back. There's Braxton, okay. Deb, cutting out things for preschool. Okay. Wife of the teacher. Okay. Welcome. This is one of my favorite meetings of the year because it's an awesome chance to just sort of hear what God did over the last year, and so it's a great night to be together. Let's see, the agenda for tonight is actually in the packet, and so you can find that in there. I don't think there are any changes that we need to make. Oh, great! There are more packets over there, and I made coffee. That's about the extent of my hospitality gift. So there's some of that too. Any other items for the agenda, or we would take a motion to approve it?
I'd like to put a report from the pastor search team.
Okay, awesome. Pastor search team report. Thanks, Dan. Let's add that under old business since there's nothing there. We'll call that 8A. Pastor search team report. Anything else? Can I get a motion to approve that agenda then? Okay, there's a motion.
I'll second.
And a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, carries. Great. The minutes from the October quarterly meeting are in your packet. I would entertain a motion to approve those. Motion from Jim. Second. A second from back. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, carries. Great. All right. Number 3, financial secretary report. Marilyn.
The next page is your the receipts for the last quarter of the year 2021, and at the bottom gives you a year to date. The first column is the general giving for 2021 was $420,600.65. Designations is the second column. That includes benevolent fund, missions, and building fund. That was $39,058.41. The third column includes all of our internal ministries, preschool, men's, women's, anything that is not part of the general fund giving. We had $41,409.18 for a total giving last year of $501,068.24. Wow. Any questions on that I can answer? You're going to see as we progress in the performance sheet, the last the last day of December, December 31st, you're going to see a generous giving that day of $31,000 to the general fund. Part of that money is, well, most of that money came online, so it does not hit the bank until 2022. So you're going to see a little discrepancy as far as receipts for 2021, but you'll see it in January when we get the January giving.
Thanks, Marilyn. We've been in the process as a church of stabilizing our financial sort of accounting and reporting, and I think we're in a really good spot with some changes that we've made, and so I'm excited about that. I know Marilyn's excited about that. But you're right, Jim. Generosity and God's blessing has been amazing. All right, I think it would be good for us to approve that report. Is there a motion? I don't know where'd that come from? You? Okay, from Nick, is there a second? Okay, all right. Are you keeping up with this, Andy? Okay, all right. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries. Thank you. Okay, the treasurer's report, Riker, this probably is it for you. Yeah. Assuming the rest of the meeting goes well. Right. Let's hope so. Maureen's laughing. Okay.
My page is one. It's got quarterly budget performance through December 2021. So you can see by the budgeted expenses, we had a budget of 431. That is a healthy budget. We usually put forward a pretty healthy budget. You know, we usually fall way below that. So the expenses paid 387. That's how much we came in under budget. That's for the general. So if you look at the giving, we're at 420. That's healthy. We're in the green by a long shot. So that's really good. And compared to last year, we're up from last year. So those numbers there do not include the designated givings. You can see an extra 20 grand went to building, another 15 grand went to benevolent fund. Those are all good numbers. So I'd like to encourage those that are giving extra to that building fund. Since we did the capital campaign, where people put extra towards the building fund to help fund that. When that ended, we encouraged you guys to keep putting money into it. You know, that all helps. It all goes to the principal to bring the principal down. So that goes, and then you can see a breakdown of the savings down below with the cash reserves and stuff. Any questions on that part? Yes.
What do we got left in the principal of the?
$860,000, $826,700. It's with plus or minus $100. I just called today. Yep. I knew somebody would ask. Oh, 700 and change. Bill knows for sure. But Riker's right, that additional kind of ongoing campaign money goes straight to retire that principal, and we're making good progress on that. The other thing too, Riker mentioned in that cash reserves, that $50,000 is our target to have in reserve for emergencies. So we've accomplished setting that, hitting that too. So that's really good. That's a good sign. Any other questions for Riker?
From now on, you can ask Lorraine.
All right, I'll take a motion to approve that report. There's a motion by Kristen. Is there a second? Second, thank you. Any discussion? I'd like to thank Riker for serving as our treasurer. hanging on while we found his replacement. All those in favor of approving the report, say aye. Aye. Opposed, carries. Okay. Senior Pastors Report. Come on up, Ron. Thank you.
Know if I'd be speaking, but I just want to encourage the membership. What an amazing group of people at Grand Rapids Eat Free. And just been a fun, enjoyable trip. And I've been here over a year now, and it's, we're getting towards the end. We'll probably hear more of that, but God willing, but what a joy to be here. And I want to give you the opportunity to ask me some questions. And if I can't answer them, dumb looks are still available.
They're free.
How many deer have you hit?
How many what?
Deer.
2 and almost a third, about 4 weeks ago. So
That's why he has that big grill guard on.
yeah,
his
that's right.
vehicle. Big
I thought
cow catcher.
thought about some machine guns, but I don't know if that would go over very well. It may fit up here, machine guns, right? Yeah, what a joy. We're in the book of Philippians, and what a wonderful book to be walking through as we're going through the pastor search and so on. So commend our elders. They're working hours and hours and hours. I'm amazed at the amount of time they put in and the training they've gone through, and that's been exciting. And the leadership they've been taking with the entire church body, actually. So pretty exciting. Oh,
Pastor has a report in the packet.
Yep.
So you can read that. Any questions for Pastor Ron?
So I have one quick request. Just talked to Gwen. And so keep Tom in your prayers. He's got a little bit of a fever. I don't know if you have any other updates maybe in the back, or somebody has another update, but keep him in your prayers. He continues. We're heading towards progressing, and Lord willing, he will get stronger and be able to move from St. Mary's ICU. So, yeah. Okay.
What's next for you when your meeting's done here?
Well, IPM has many more openings than they do interim pastors. So I will probably take a couple weeks off and don't say anything. She says you have to take a month off, but take a few weeks off and then head back at another church probably. So, yeah. I will ask her. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, elder report, Quentin.
Trying to find the mute button. Hit the wrong things. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Well, the report's in there. You can read all the details there, but I just wanted to emphasize, I really truly believe our church was blessed this last year. We've seen how God's hand's been at work. We've definitely had some struggles there with, people going to be with the Lord, which is, has happened before, but it's probably more than we've normally had. But I just wanted to emphasize the strategy and in the process and the way where we've gotten to. I think we're going to be more effective when we get this fully implemented, and that's going to be important. We really do enjoy the prayer time. Not a week goes by and there's an email thread or there's text threads that we're able to share stuff as we're hearing things, and that's been huge. We end up adding another night because prayer time would take up so much of the regular meeting as well, very important. And so we've used that extra night to not only do the prayer, but we've been working on doing some study time and, working on, spirit, like right now, the book we're in is a spiritual leadership for the 21st century. And then, you saw the benevolent number that Riker showed, and, that's been huge. I think our church has been a blessing to people within and without, through that we've been able to show people Christ's love. And I think that's really important, and it's a good reflection on our church. And then I just want to, thank Doug and Gary as they're going off. I think it was 12 years that Doug from church chair to elder has been on the board. And so we're going to give him a little break here. But anyway, 14. I knew it was 12 or 14. But anyway, so there it is. But you can read the rest of that. If you have any questions, fire away.
Any questions for Quentin?
That's good.
You're getting off easy tonight, Quentin.
Yep, that's okay, but you know where to find me if you do.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we're gonna jump into number 7 and start with Steve, Associate Pastor Report.
All right. Sorry, I'm trying to make it so that we get to see everybody's faces up here, right? There. Don't want to cut Sandy off. All right. So I have a lengthy report in there. Feel free to browse through that. Lots of good things that are happening, lots of opportunities that are ahead. And some of the pieces, even kind of just highlighting right at the beginning, is the question of what's God doing and how do we join him there? It's been kind of a theme, especially in student ministries, but it's been a theme across the board in young adults, what we're doing in community groups and otherwise. And so I just want to highlight a couple things. Like this was a big year in a lot of different ways, just because of the types of relationships. It's been super awesome having Rachel on helping out, and pretty phenomenal for us. Being to have her a part of the group, having the students here, not just from a guy perspective, but from a girl perspective, which is super helpful, especially for tomorrow night, since we're in a relationship series. And so that'll be another fun thing. So be praying for us on that. But there's a lot of flexibility, lots of things that changed this past year. Like for instance, with COVID, we were able to do District Blitz last year, but it looked very different. Typically what we do is we're down at the deck in Duluth. And it just wasn't possible. So one of the things that happened was we ended up getting changed, and it ended up going to different camps. It went to one of the free church camps, which was Chaminade. We were able to be there, and it actually changed the flavor for us. It actually was a much more intimate setting. And it develops a lot of conversation points for the students. One smiling parent over there had a son work there this past summer, and there's lots of little cool stuff that happened along the way. Another thing that I want to point out is this year was one of the things I want to highlight is the fruit of some of the things that have been happening in the kids ministry actually impacted us this year. It always does, but when you see a group of junior high boys that are all like bonded together and ready to go first thing when it comes into a brand new year, there's 6th graders and there's like 12th graders and all this other crazy kind of stuff. And they're like, hey, I don't care. I'm there. And I'm bringing everybody with me too. And so we got to see the fruit of some of the relationships that have been built in kids ministry spill over into the high school group. And it was really cool and really exciting because, well, now we have hordes of junior high boys. And yeah, sometimes literally, but anyway, but it's been fun. And so some of the cool things is we actually are at a place where we get to lay some new foundations, lay some new stuff as we're investing into these students who it's their first time in student ministries. What does it look like? What does it mean to move from elementary school into middle school and high school? And so cool stuff that we're seeing there. Briefly touch on the other two as well. Young adult stuff. Lots of stuff hit young adult group this year. For instance, we had two sets of young adult leaders get married within this past year. And so that was a huge thing. It was a blessing to even be a part of that. And, I got to do both ceremonies, which was pretty cool for me. But also there was a sense in which we got to see God doing some things through them. And, there's a lot of navigating stuff too, because some of our young adults also, they were daughters of long-term members of this church. And so helping navigate and coming alongside, there was a lot of one-on-one discipling that happened in young adult ministry this year. And so it's cool stuff that was happening in there. And we're at a point where, we're looking ahead and saying, okay, let's revisit some foundations and get a new launch pad as we're going forward into what we're going to do with young adult ministry. Community groups, cool stuff happening there. There's a lot of bleed over between men's and women's and how they've been a force, if I will say that, for encouraging and being a part of getting the Disciple Maker Handbook studies, which is a part of our equipping pathway for community groups as well as micro groups. So enjoy having that happen. One of the things that we added this year was the groups leader training, which if you haven't done a handbook, do that. If you have done the handbook, come to the groups leader training. And I will plug this. It is not simply for those who are going to lead a community group or simply for those who are going to lead a micro group. There's stuff that's in that section that is actually can be applied across the board in a lot of different ministries. I actually use some of this stuff in student ministries. And so it bleeds all through. And so I encourage you, come check that out when we have the next stuff up. And we're looking ahead for what coaching systems are going to look like for the future, and how do we keep plugging along in adult ministries, and what does it mean to pull all those things together, and what does that look like for the future? Those are bullet points. Trust me, there's a lot more, but I'm going to stop there. And if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them.
Anything for Steve? Okay.
All righty.
Thank you. All right, next up, children's ministry and preschool, Sarah.
About a year ago at this time, things were different than they are now in the world, but definitely in children's ministry. Just looking back over the last year, we were still kind of regrouping after having been totally shut down due to the onset of the pandemic last year. In January, at this point in time, on Sunday mornings, we were still very limited in the groups of kids that were gathering. We only had our nursery and one preschool room open. We were having kids meeting in small groups throughout the week, and trying to keep those groups being even more mindful about keeping those groups small. And we had one Stepping Stones class that was meeting. And you can read through the whole progression of our year in my report, but just as I stand before you tonight, these past few months, we've been able to have our doors open on Sunday mornings from babies all the way up through 5th grade. And it's just been a joy and so much fun to have all these kids come back. I've had kids say, coming back in September, it's been so long, this is so fun. You know, one girl told me, I'm going to die if that ever happens again, where we can't have our classes meet together. And that's important. And yes, I could say, well, maybe she didn't want to be in the service or, lots of things, but I truly believe it's deeper than that those kids are valuing that time together, that community that they are building. Our teachers are doing such great work in presenting the gospel to kids in ways that are meaningful to them. And I do believe them being part of other experiences, being part of the worship service, that worship time that they're together, I feel that is valuable too. But for them at their young age to even begin to grasp God's great, deep, wide love for them and what that means as they grow and they live out their lives together. And so it's just been super cool to be able to do that. We have continued with our small groups, our kid groups, we call them. We've seen continued growth in that area, and it's been wonderful to see that. I'm so grateful we have adults and some students too, who have really jumped in and just taken ownership. Like, these are our kids. They are taking, whether it's the group that they meet with every week or people who have just approached me, where can I help? Where can I step in? And people are doing that. And we are able to just care for kids well, minister to them. And I believe that when we care and love for kids well, it speaks to other people too. And it speaks to their parents and their families, that we are there for their kids. And it's just been wonderful to watch them grow. I think I've been in my position now about 6 years. And so I'm at the point where I've seen some kids and families who have come all the way up through children's ministries and have moved on up into student ministries now. And so it's just really fun to see that some of those relationships have grown and what community means to them. And from seeing them just kind of learn some Bible stories at their very young ages, to me now being able to have conversations with them and them being open to ask questions about what this means and being comfortable enough to say, this is really too hard to understand, and us to be able to talk through what is God saying to us through this great big love letter he has written to us called the Bible. And so just great things, fun and exciting. And I'm just grateful that I get to be a part of it, that God has asked me to be a part of it. We've been able to add a second preschool class at Stepping Stone. So we have one group come in the morning, quick break and reset time, and we have another group of kids come in the afternoon. We do have GREFC attenders who are part of our preschool. We have other families from our community. Some of them are church attenders, some are not church attenders. Some of them have no church home, are not connected to a church anywhere. And it's a wonderful thing that they come to us and they know, are very open, that we have Bible time every day. We pray, we talk about God, we praise God, we worship when we are in the classroom together. And parents being open to that, desiring that. Some parents not being sure how to present that to their children, but believe that's important. And just some really neat opportunities that God has presented us for us to come alongside and reflect God's love to some of these families that may not have had a church family that's been able to do that for them. So I did, in my report on the back side, there are 5 points. These go alongside, if you recall back, we had a sermon series, and it's also been part of our kind of strategy discussions we've had as a whole for our church. And I kind of reframed these a little bit to use in children's ministry. And I actually had a study this summer with a group of kids where we walked through what does it mean to be a growing disciple of Christ? And we explored that together. And even though that study is over, I've still been using these as reference points of a target, like what direction are we trying to take these kids? Of course, we want them to know the Bible. We want them to pray. We want them to be seeking God their whole lives, all those kinds of things. But these have been helpful, just kind of markers as we're thinking about, are we pointing these kids in this direction? Are we helping mold them in a way that they'll be able to take this into the next steps of their lives? So I just wanted to share that piece. And you probably can, even if you remember some of those 5 marks or have reference to them, you can see how they line up. But I've just rewritten them to kind of meet kids where they are and what's age appropriate for them. And it's been helpful to kind of reference that. And we'll continue to have that as we continue to implement our strategies in different ways throughout our church. Does anyone have any questions? Yes. Well, it can vary, and we are in a season of illness again and cold weather again. So I just told someone, in a good time, this fall, we saw about 65 to 70 kids on a Sunday morning. We were off for a couple of weeks, probably more in the 55, 60 range. I just said to someone, I feel like we had a chunk of families that were gone for 2 weeks and now they're back and the other chunk is gone, just because we've got a lot of viruses and different things, just even common cold, strep throat, that kind of stuff going around right now. So yeah, we've seen a flip. So yeah, so that's a growth that we've seen, well over 50 kids in kid groups that we have happening. We have 16 students in our preschool class in the morning, which we consider full. We have 10 in our afternoon, which for this year we are calling full. At this point, if we have any more than that, we need to add staff in our afternoon class. And at this point, we're choosing not to do that. It may be something in the future. So those are where our numbers are. Jim.
That's great on your preschool, by the way, you guys. So, I noticed that the budget really, is that reflecting the digital workload they're having?
Our budget for, I guess I'm not sure what you're referring to, but our budget for teachers is it's the school year. So they did receive a new employment contract for the school year, and it was reflective of that. So that is, I'm not sure what it is in the budget. Is it showing from one year to the next? She is the teacher. Yeah. Yeah. No, and there isn't an assistant teacher in the afternoon. So the assistant role did not increase from last school year to this school year. And I'm not sure, Marilyn, do you know if it's the assistant, how that's written out there? Because we're a little bit different since we run September to May. So it's budgeted out that way. Yeah. So it's the school year budget. So you're looking at one school year from the next school year. Right. Yeah. Yep.
Here's my point is, you know, be very with you, try how much I will get some dead down.
Yes. Yeah, good. Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you, Jim. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yep. 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 Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Right. And I agree with you for sure that that's something that we would like to see more of. And that was one of the approaches, was a family night. And we're only looking at doing our second one next week. So that's really a pilot. And is that working? Is that not working? Is that really encompassing? Is that giving people the opportunity that they're looking for and desire and really need to be able to interacting and spending time together? I'm not sure. So looking at Wednesday night, and that would definitely be an answer bigger than just my decision about what we're doing in children's ministry. Are we going to do a church-wide meal every week? And, also looking at trying to have everybody in the church at the same time. We bump up into space issues for sure, of how do we have youth group and a meal and have groups in all the different rooms? Is that something that we can do or not? If not, what is the best way to address it? So one of our tries was the family night, but can we go back to something bigger on Wednesday night with all the growth that we've had? Can everyone fit in here at the same time? Right now, even just with the kid groups that we have, I know you're here, so you've seen that we're full. We're using all the rooms that we have right now. So even if we did have more happening, at least one or two of our groups meet offsite at a different time. And if everybody was here at the same time, would we need more rooms? And if it was adults wanting to meet at different times, where would they go? So there's definitely some challenges to that happening. But I definitely hear that desire and that need. How do we gather families together for them to create that relationship? So aware of it, tried to address it, or and looking for ideas. So it's good to hear that. It's good to hear where people are at, and that is a desire and a need that's out there.
I mean, I think I can add too, and Quentin can chime in. One of the things that we talked about at the elder level is, how do we identify, based on the finite amount of resources and people and the number of things that we have going on, how do we focus on those things that we want to make sure we can continue to do and staff and have people for and volunteers for, and knowing that number of things, whatever we focus on, is limited, right? Like, we can't do everything we want to do. So knowing that we're sort of still in this time of easing back, what are those things that we can actually pull off still, knowing that we have limited resources, time, talent, and energy. So, but it's something we've talked about Wednesday night a number of times.
More questions? All right, I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Sarah. All right, men's ministry. I'm going to have Larry come up and introduce kind of some handshake and handoff and baton. Turner.
Well, most of you know me as a man of few words, and that's probably going to continue. My wife knows how to get me wound up, and she's not allowed to tell that secret. So, all right. I've been leading this ministry for about 8 years. The first 5 were a little frustrating, trying to get things up and going. The past 3 have been pretty good, had some good growth. And after 8 years, we're handing it off to Tim. You can read my report in the reports there. And Tim is going to take over and give you a little look at the future.
Most of the time, we talk about presentation of what's happened. And yet, as we look forward, you say, what's the strategy? The strategy is to connect. Provide an opportunity for men to connect. We're Lone Rangers. That's the way we are. And this is North Country. We can do it on our own, but the problem is we can't. And we need somebody to cover our backside and haul us off the battlefield when we get shot up. Who's that going to be? And I really hope as we move forward that the passion to care, the passion to connect, and a methodology that brings men closer is what we're able to see. So that's really this next quarter. First half of the year is all about connection. You can read the report. I was just writing it from my heart of what I believe and the ministry I've been a part of. How are we going to do it? Men are lost in our society. How are we going to change? Change hearts through the gospel of Jesus Christ that changes lives, that transforms hearts through transformed lives. That's the strategy of this church. That's its mission. And I really trust coming alongside men, we can be part of the mission.
Thanks again to Larry for his leadership there, and looking forward to continuing strong ministry. All right, women's ministry, Kristen.
So, well, again, you can read what I've got there written. We've had lots of activities, lots of different things that we've been doing this year. Just a great year. I mean, starting out slow, coming out of 2020 and into 2021, we didn't know what this year was going to look like or what connections we were going to be able to make. And throughout this year, there's been some tremendous connections and tremendous resilience in the women of our church and of our community. And I so appreciate so much of the time and talent that has been given to the ladies of this church and the women's ministry as a whole. So in saying that, we did have some changes over this last year. The couple of the changes were some additions to our group. We added in a couple new members. Carol Ray and Roxanne were both added too. And unfortunately, we also said a little kind of goodbye to Michelle. She's not going far though. So I keep telling her that, but she's not going to be meeting with us regularly, but she's still going to be very much a part of things and helping us out in a lot of ways. So that's been a little shift of our group. Other than that though, we've had lots of different activities, sign painting, bonfires, bunko night. The big thing this year was our Christmas tea. That was absolutely amazing. I can't express how fabulous the speaker was and how meaningful it was. We wound up having biggest turnout ever. 130 people were at our Christmas tea this year, and it was beautiful. And so more importantly than the numbers was the message that was presented there. The message was being a light for Jesus everywhere you are. And our speaker, and her name is slipping out of my mind right now, but she was phenomenal. And she said it so poignantly and so well. And just, you could feel the Holy Spirit just in that room inundating everyone that was there. And yeah, it was awesome. So having said that, we've had some great events, great things, some things to look forward to that we're in the planning and in the works for is our annual. If Gathering is coming up at first weekend of April 1st, April Fool's Day, we'll be joining together. So we're excited to look forward to that. Two other things that I want to make sure to mention. Aubrey Grossman came to the women's ministry group right before Christmas at our November meeting, I believe it was, and said, you know what? Young adults want to join with the rest of the adults in the group in this church. How can we do that? And we said, great idea. What can we do? So on February, I believe it's February 26th. Okay. All right. So we'll discuss the date, but tentatively on February 26th, we have the Blue Water Covenant Bible Camp, who will be allowing us to come in and host a broomball tournament. And we're hoping to get everybody that we possibly can. And I gotta say, broomball for me, if it's anything, it's kind of like thinking you can do a cartwheel. I can't do a cartwheel, haven't been able to for years. Used to, my mind says I can't do a cartwheel. Broomball is kind of that same thing. So I'm not totally sure if I'll be actually playing on the ice or if I will be observing from the sidelines. Either way, whether you play or not, please come and join us. We're going to have some soups and different things there. It's going to be from 11 to 2. Fabulous time. If for no other reason, even if you hate broomball, don't even want to set foot on the ice, come for the enjoyment and the entertainment of it, and just connecting with our young adults, and 18 to 188. We want everybody there, all ages. So just to let you know about that. The other thing that I wanted to mention is women's ministry is going to be starting what we're calling Titus Tables. So please keep your ears open, women and men. Encourage those women that you know in the community and in our church. We're going to be doing Titus Tables. It's 4 ladies once a month getting together for a meal so that they can commune together, they can talk together, they can connect, and they can grow in their spiritual maturity. It's all about the Titus 2 model of women equipping women. And in Acts, it talks about coming together, breaking bread together, and enjoying and worshiping God, and learning how to be mature Christians and mature followers of Christ. So look for more information. We're going to be putting together brochures and different things and signups and all kinds of stuff for that. So looking forward to what this year is going to bring. Any questions? Other than the date?
Thank you. All right, Legacy Builders, Gary and Donna.
Thank you. I'm going to read this. Donna put it together this afternoon. After a lot of work and planning, in October, we hosted the National Legacy Coalition Summit simulcast here at GREFC. Although only 12 people attended in person, there were 23 who signed up, and many of these were then able to watch the simulcast in their homes for the next month. Of the attendees, 7 people were from churches other than ours. So the word about intentional Christian grandparenting is getting out. On February 12th, we will be hosting a brunch for all REFC attenders, have invited others from the community who have attended our other events. We will show a video of Speaker Josh Mulvihill and the biblical responsibilities of sharing our faith and teaching the next generations about our Savior, Jesus Christ. And then we're also looking into starting a group similar to a community group. We want to start a community-wide community group of people with an interest in passing on their Christian faith to their grandchildren and great-grands, and yet those unborn. And we hope to get that going this spring. Any questions? Thank you.
Is that your heated vest?
It is. I've got spare batteries. in
You
it.
do? Oh, Gary has a heated vest. That's next level. All right, thanks. Yeah, thanks, board members. All right, connecting and hospitality, Jim and Vicky. Is Vicky here or just you, Jim? Okay.
Teacher.
Yeah.
Hi, Jim Azure here. Connecting and Hospitality, we've got a brand new steering committee we're all excited about. They include myself and Vicky, Chuck and Kathy Miller, Dave and Rhonda Amundson. They're right back there. Can you lift your hands and say hi? And Adam and Stacy Godfrey. So we got some new blood on the committee. We're excited about it. This year with with COVID kind of ending, hopefully we want to get back to normal on some of our activities. We want to do 4 potlucks or picnics a year plus 4 other activities. That's our goal for this first year. The first one's going to be on Sunday. Actually, the 27th. Teen Challenge is going to be here that Sunday. Their choir, and we'll have a potluck after that. So, yeah, we're excited about it. In the handouts, there's a bunch of ideas we've got. We'd like to extend the invitation to anybody that's interested in participating in any of this stuff, or any other ministries that want to do some things together. We'd love to do that. We're excited to start again and get people together. Thanks.
Any questions? Jim, do you want to talk a little bit about your trip?
Oh, sure.
Well, we got you here. And you're in front of folks.
Yeah, Rob Grooms and I, we went to Kentucky, Mayfield, Kentucky, and we spent it took about a week for the trip. And if you guys remember, they had a bad tornado went through that area in December. So this is about a month after the tornado. It went through there, and we went with Samaritan's Purse. If you ever get an opportunity to go with them, they're just first class operation. They're very organized, very professional. Once you get down there, they take care of all your needs, great food and everything. And we just had an opportunity to connect with some folks. Thank everybody that we donated cash and tools for the trip. We filled the van full of tools, and we made these little kits. We had extension cords and heaters, electric blankets, miscellaneous stuff. We made these totes, and we had 6 of those totes all put together, and God had a home for every one of them. It was amazing. So everything we brought down there, we found a good home for. We found a little ministry right down in the middle of downtown where all the damage happened, when there's still people living in these houses down there. The houses are 3/4 wrecked, and they're living in basically camping out in these houses, and there's a little ministry down there. So we helped them. And for a lot of the tools we brought down, they actually had a spot where people could borrow tools and use them and bring them back when they're done with them. So most of the tools we brought down went for that. It was just really a good God thing. So yeah, I encourage anybody and if you ever get a chance to go down there, if you want to talk to me, there's pictures on that table over there. We'd love to share with you. We had some just amazing God experiences. I'd love to share with them. Just come and ask me about them. I don't have time now. I'll start crying. So it was really good. I know Rob had a great time. Looking forward to the next one. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, Frank, worship ministry. You still with us, buddy?
Hey, everyone. I'm still here. Yep. I wish I could be there in person, but after how many years we've been with COVID, I've got to do some quarantining now. So unfortunately, I can't be there in person, but appreciate us having this new technology. It's not new, but we can still meet together even though we're farther apart. So with the worship ministry, we had a pretty decent 2021. Nothing outrageous happened, which was great, but we did see some good individual growth in a few of the worship leaders, which was great. And also, one thing to mention too is I guess the more frequent appearing of our younger worship leaders. So I look to continue that in 2022. Get the youth up there as much as we can, because I think that's just great for the church, great for their growth, and great for all ministries all around. Towards the end of the year, the worship leaders read through a book called The Reset by Jeremy Riddle. And it was such a good book, just a great eye-opening look at worship, where it was, where it kind of had maybe a turn, not necessarily for the best, but for the last 10 years, and then where the next 10 years kind of look. So really helping us to focus as we head into 2022 on that heart of worship. How can we as worship leaders be better at leading people into deeper, more meaningful worship times? How can we arrange the songs better? What can we do to even do some teaching where we're all at different places in our spiritual walk? We all worship in different ways. How can we help people move along that journey as well? So looking forward to a growth year here in 2022, moving into 2023 as well. We know it's not going to happen overnight, but we do expect to see those changes, and we expect to have some positives and some places where we don't quite do as well as we want to. So we appreciate your grace as we grow through this change, and that open up to any questions.
Yeah, I have a question.
I can barely hear you, Jim.
When are we gonna get the disco light?
It's on order with the smoke machine. I think Riker was able to squeeze that into the budget for this year, Maryland.
Miscellaneous, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, missions, Maryland.
I don't know if everybody knows, but missions, and we're going to try to highlight that either in one of the weekly updates that we do. Missions gets 11% of the general giving. Okay, that's an enormous amount of money, and that funds all the missionaries. And you can see the list that we have. We do local missions through radio stations, Youth for Christ, Deeper Life Bible Camp. We help fund the EFCA's Reach Global, which is a missionary organization that send around the world. We help with crew. We have Tom and Sherry Howard from Deer River that work with World Team Cambodia. And by the way, they are coming home for a couple months this spring. Camp Forest Springs in Wisconsin. We do short-term mission trips. North Central District of the EFCA. Elementum Ministries, that's Andy Abramson, and down in Texas. And he's working nationally now on that. AIM, which is an African, thank you, African Inland Missions. That's with Chris and Kelly. Thank you, McMichael. And the Dominican Public, we work with the folks down in with World Servants. So, and we do, you'll see the next list. We have missionaries in France that also are working in Jordan. So 6 months in France, 6 months in Jordan. Latin America and the Caribbean, Cambodia and the Dominican Republic I mentioned. So, you'll see up above, we had $46,000 approximately come in. Of that, 53% is given internationally. 38% is given locally, nationally, and the EFCA for missions work. So your money is being well spent. We've purchased Bibles that are available in the lobby free for anyone that comes to us that doesn't have a church home, doesn't have a Bible. They're free to take. We have a commitment to the Dominican Republic for building homes. And unfortunately, we're not going to do a short-term mission trip this spring, but we are sending money down to build at least 2 homes, which is about $17,000. It's about $8,500 for a house. They get mattresses, they get some other things, because these folks just have absolutely nothing. Christmas food baskets that we helped with the Dominican on Samaritan's Purse. And then we're doing a short-term mission trip with Ethan Panchison. And so we've, your money is being well spent on missions. Any questions? Yes. It's not in, well.
Hasn't been discussed.
It's not been discussed. We've not been approached. I don't know what that would mean for us, I guess. Are other churches involved? Is that what you're? Oh. You know, that's a good point. If people come to us and are in need, either the benevolent fund or missions would help support those folks. You know, I don't know about actually giving money to the school, but we would help people. Sure. Anything else? Yes.
On the same note, if there is, request to come in the middle of the year, before that was the budget, do you have any wiggle room for any of this?
We have, we've set up within the budget, we've set up a certain amount and it's reserved. So if something happens similar to the church, we've got at least a quarter's worth because we pay our missionaries on a quarterly basis so that we can still support them and give them an opportunity if something happens here to let them know that we have to lower their payments or whatever it is. We have some money that comes as part of as opportunities arrives, especially locally. If there's we used to help feed the college athletics. So when that comes up, we try to contribute as much as we can. So we do whatever we can with whatever we have. Yes. Yes, that would be what we would consider a local opportunity to do. Sure. Sure.
Good questions. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Marilyn. Okay, Scott, facilities.
So the first item on the list is actually not a 2021 project or expense, but I thought it was worth sharing because it's pretty significant. We got a new phone system. Pretty important for staff here. Marilyn spearheaded that. For those that don't know, we kind of had like a home phone system with a phone that had to be run around to different places and people had to run and answer it. So now we have like desk phones and can transfer calls and voicemail, and I think staff's pretty excited about that. So thank you, Marilyn. Right. So I'll repeat that again next year just because it's so significant.
You get 2 years out of that one.
Yeah. The year didn't start off great. We had some heating issues and we lost heat from one of our rooftop units, which heats our sprinkler pump room out back here. That caused our fire suppression system to part of it froze early in the year. So we were without sprinkler system for a month or two. We remedied that this year by adding supplemental heat in that back room. That back room depends on one of the units that heats the worship center. So when that went, sprinkler room got cold, froze. So we spent some money on that, and then we had to repair some components with the pump system. I think part of that was covered by insurance. One thing coming up, Sarah knows we don't have air conditioning in part of the children's wing. We looked into that last year. It's beyond repair, so that's one thing I want to spend some money on this year, guys. Keep starting the kids cool back there this summer. More of the routine type stuff. We took down some dead trees. Quentin kind of coordinated some of that, thanks Quentin. We had, I don't know, 4 or 5 dead trees out front where all that water ponds. We had a dead tree in the back, Jim Azure felled for us. I took part of that. There's still a big trunk sitting back there if anybody wants some firewood. After that big storm in July, when we had those high winds, Michelle and I got in the car coming to the church, just hoping we weren't going to see a tree on the building. Fortunately, God was good. There was some trees down out front blocking the entrance, and Quentin cleared those for us as well. Our old sign out on the road, once we put our new sign up a few years ago, I think we were obligated to take that old sign out of commission per our agreement from the city. So Mike Protel kind of converted that into a banner board. So it's still there, doesn't have our sign on it, but it's where we put banners. We had some issues with one of the LED lights in the worship center, one of the big ones up high. Waldy Dooster coordinated that. We got a lift in here, and Waldy did a lot of legwork on that. So thank you, Waldy, for that. Mid carpets cleaned again this year. We do a little bit of that every year. We had this room, I think the foyer area, and some of the, or all of the preschool and the worship center and some preschool. For the second year in a row, we've had a turnover in the custodian position. Evan Dooster was doing that for us for about a year. He resigned late last year, and fortunately, the previous custodian prior to Evan said, "Hey, let me know if you're going to give that up someday." So we called, or somebody called Sean O'Donnell, our former custodian, and his wife was interested in the position. So she slid right into that and started late last year, early this year. We hired A1 Concrete to do our snow plowing again. Al Zachman, I think, is on there. Al's been doing our mowing and our yard maintenance. So thank you, Al. We have a facility care team. I know Gary's a core member on that. Mike Protelsch, those guys kind of do handyman stuff around the church. So thank you guys for taking care of our honey-do list around here. We had this, I believe this projector, Waldy did some work on this projector, so we can use this projector to connect to the worship center, and we can show worship service on here. We can also plug into it locally like we're doing now. Waldy's kind of our tech guy around here and does a lot for us. Another thing Waldy did was there was a desire to have audio from the worship center in the nursery and in the room next to the nursery. So audio, or Waldy got that all figured out, and we now have speakers in the nursing room next to the nursery. Cal Kangas has been helping us out. Thanks, Cal. I know he's been in recently taking care of some lighting. A lot of it back in the children's wing. Also checking with Doug just today to make sure that we're maintaining our sprinkler system adequately so we don't have issues again. So Doug's been helping me run that one down. A couple wish list items for 2022, pretty exciting. Get our septic tank pumped. Not sure when or if that's ever been done. Doug wasn't aware that it had ever been done, so I think we should probably get that done.
Is that number 1 or number 2 on the list?
Whatever you want, Matt. And then I've been reminded numerous times by Al that we need to do a thorough cleanup of our campus grounds here. Hasn't been done in a couple of years, so we'll be working on that this spring to get sticks and needles and grass all picked up. That's about it that I can remember. Any questions? Jim?
Yeah, it sounds like there's an interest in putting our group of starting some church-wide meals again, and it's always been an issue with electrical outlets for plugging in things. We figure some short-term and long-term solutions for that.
Where? Haven't, didn't know it was a need. Oh, yeah, yep. can add it to the list.
The other thing on our list is playground. That's something that we've talked about a bunch. And so looking kind of, again, short and long term for not only what happens during the, for little kids on the weekends, but for preschool. So that's something that we've talked about.
Yeah, I
What
think
that looks like.
Sarah's got some ideas and needs some help making some plans there and definitely want to take some. What's that? No, no. For LED lighting?
Yeah, during our bill, we put in a lot of higher efficiency lighting, and a company came in and helped us figure all that out, and we got a big rebate from it. $2,800.
Towards the principal of the project.
Nice. Good question. I didn't specifically bring that up during budgeting time because it slipped to my mind, but I think we're gonna have to figure that one out. Not specifically, but we'll find some. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah. Yeah, Sarah's in charge of that and is fixing that for us.
Right, which is good, but sometimes that doesn't do more, so we haven't done anything.
We did some, Doug was gracious enough to make us some sewer skewers that I installed last winter when we were having those issues. What's that? Yeah. So hopefully that's helping, or is. Seems to be other.
This year, but it's been other years, there's just certain seasons that just, it comes up fairly regularly.
Yeah, when it gets real cold, the roof vents sometimes get plugged and. Yep. Other than that one time, I haven't heard of it, and that one was remedied by putting some water in one of the floor drains. So I think our roof drains have been doing well so far.
Okay. Thanks, Scott. Okay, Michelle, welcome team.
The welcome team has gotten off to a really great start, and we've got about 45 people volunteering to help on Sunday mornings to welcome people and help them feel comfortable in the service and to experience God while they're here. And so a couple of things that we really stressed this year was praying together when we are serving in the morning, and showing love for other members on our team just by showing up if someone needs to be gone, because it's kind of hard when you suddenly find that you have to be gone and you're calling everybody and nobody's stepping up. So we said, let's show love by stepping in often and quickly when somebody needs help. And that's been going great. I always get, if I'm the one sending out the request for somebody, then I always get like 5 or 6 people saying, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. So it's been a really great thing. For a team that is never all together, all at the same time, it's hard to be considered a cohesive group, but I tried to do an open house in my office in November. We got a few people in there, and I'm hoping in the next year to do a couple more like entire team gathering, maybe a picnic or something, just so that we can all be together all at once. And that's about it.
Thank you. Okay, moving 8A, pastor search team report. Dan.
Hi, I'm Dan Carlson. I'm the chairman of the pastor search team. Typically, when I give these updates, I do a very, very quick, this is what we did the last couple months. This is what's coming up. If you guys will give me permission, I'd like to take a little bit more time and talk about what the team really has been up to over this past however many months we've been meeting. You guys up for that? The longer report tonight. So the pastor search team, PST, really began work in June of last year. Prior to that, there was a lot of work done by the transition team, the strategic team, the elders, Pastor Ron. A lot of pieces were put in place, but the search team really got underway in June. And there's a number of search team members here tonight, but the people that are on that team are Gary Bordner, Joel Hagan, Sandy Harling, Paul Hutner, Kristen Pagician, Becky Peterson, Zach Preble, Vicky Protelsch, myself, and Pastor Ron as a coach. So when I talk about the PSD, those are the folks I'm talking about. So through June and July, we met, we established roles. I got voluntold I was going to be the chairman. And we did some other things like that, such as Sandy is the co-chair, and we decided that at a meeting. She wasn't there. So you know, a lot of that. Right. We spent a lot of time doing a handoff from the transition team, from the strategic team, and from the elders. So all the work that they had been doing, they had a lot of information to hand off to us. I personally met with staff to get some of their input on what we should be looking for in a new pastor. We had multiple training sessions with staff from the North Central District of the EFCA. Extremely helpful, extremely knowledgeable, and they've got great systems set up that we have utilized all through this process. We began a study on a book titled When the Word Leads Your Pastoral Search by Chris Bronze. It's been extremely helpful for us. We keep referring back to that book as we go through this process. We posted the positions within several districts of the EFCA and at several of the bigger seminaries around. Most of all, we prayed. When we meet, we spend about a third of our time each time in prayer, and then about a third of our time taking care of business from the previous week, and a third of our time looking forward to the next week. But as we pray, we prayed for the search team. We prayed for the overall process of the search. We prayed for all of the prospects. We prayed for all of their families. We prayed for Grand Rapids E-Free Church, the staff that's keeping the wheels on the bus. Prayed for the congregation, that everybody's heart would be in this and praying for us and behind all this. Most of all, each week when we prayed that God would show us what our next step is. We never really asked God the question, God, who do you have picked for us? Show us the person. We never went there. We always asked, God, what is our next step? We did that every time we met. God is amazing. You know, we went into this with none of us really knowing what we're doing. We've got recruiting experience in the business world, but this is much different. God has been so faithful in each week providing that next step for us. So by August, well, throughout August, we developed a criteria and began reviewing over 30 prospects. So there was a lot of people out there that we started looking at. And the criteria that we used to evaluate these prospects, first and foremost, is the word. When you look at 1 Timothy 3, 1-7, and Titus 6-9, it lays out exactly what you need to be looking for in a pastor. And we stuck to that. We referred back to that. We came to it time and time again. There was also a lot of detailed criteria set out by the elders in the EFCA pastor search application. Things like we were looking for a licensed minister who's credentialed by the EFCA. We're looking for a man between the years of 35 and 50. We're looking for somebody who has a minimum of a master's degree in religious education. There are just a ton of other things, you know, personal, theological, mission-related preferences. The elders did a great job of setting that up within the software that we're using to screen applicants. So then us as the pastor search team, we took a look at what are the gifts and what are the values that we're really looking for in a pastor. And the EFCA has a tool called the Ministry Match tool that we asked all of the potential prospects to spend time putting their information in so we could really evaluate them along these. And the gifts that we came up with, a gift of preaching, a gift of faith, counseling, discipling, and mentoring. From a value standpoint, we're looking for somebody who really values developing potential, purposeful living, influencing and impacting, and teaching and training. So in short, the kind of guy that we're looking for is somebody who's faithful to the word, humble, kind, gifted in preaching, teaching, and discipling. Somebody that's well suited and willing to join us as a church where we're at on the journey that God has set before us, rather than somebody who's going to come in autocratically and say, no, this is the direction we're going now. That's not the type of preacher that we've been looking for. And we continue to pray each week, asking God to show us what that next step might be. So by September, we were meeting 2 hours every week with a lot of work being done in between weeks. We'd kind of divvy the work up and figure out who's going to work on what between meetings. So it's been a very busy time. Through the fall, we studied a lot of resumes. We went through and compared all those detailed EFCA pastor search requirements to see where people stood. We watched tons and tons of sermons and developed an evaluation form so we could evaluate each sermon that we watched in the same way, no matter who was evaluating. We did tons of evaluations on those. We reviewed personality profiles, temperament scales, leadership styles, gifts, values. We dug into these people. We spent a lot of time digging and searching Facebook, Twitter feeds, any social media that we could get our hands on, we looked into. So we studied and we developed questions for interviews, reference checks. We asked the staff to join us to give us some more input. I just want to kind of give a shout out to Michelle through this whole process. She has helped us incredibly with just putting material together for the church, whether it's weekly bulletin or she put a phenomenal brochure together, just an e-brochure that we're able to give to prospects of who we are as a church, of the community. Great work. Somewhere along in there, we began fasting and continued to pray. We take the first week of each month and give up one meal, and during that time, just pray. So that kind of takes us well into the fall. So by October, we conducted pre-interviews with a small set of prospects. Now we're narrowing this down. And these pre-interviews were a set of questions that we spent a lot of time developing, and we sent them out in email. And then so we could compare each of their responses. And it was all about how they might fit with GREFC, how GREFC might fit into how they see God's plan for them. And from there, using those questions, we started building relationships with these guys, opening up conversations, and kind of getting deeper into what this might look like. And through all that, we continued to pray each week that God would show us what that next step is. So in late November, we conducted video interviews with the main prospects that God had put before us. All of us evaluated those recorded interviews and discussed our next steps. We shared the interviews with the pastor search profiles with the elders and got their feedback. We checked references, and we asked each of those references, by we, I really mean Zach, did all the reference work. Everybody that he called that the prospects gave us as a reference, we asked them to give us 2 or 3 names that we could also talk to. So we had first level references, and then, by an exponential factor, even more references that we were able to follow up on and check that as well. Continuing again to pray each week, God, show us the next step. By that point, it's Christmas, and we took a break. And that honestly, we've met a couple times since then, but that really brings us to tonight. And where are we at right now? So where we're at is we're in the final steps of interviewing process, second interviews, that kind of thing, background checks, all of that. That work is going to finish up by the end of February, barring something unforeseen coming up. Once that is done, early in March, the pastor search team will be able to meet with the elders and really figure out what our next steps are and whether or not we have a prospect that we want to present to the congregation as a candidate. So that will be coming sometime in March, hopefully early on in March. That's where we're at. Any questions? Jim? Whoa. Well, I thank you all for your patience and your continued prayerful support. It means more to us and to this process than you know. Thank you.
You've done an amazing job.
All right, at the annual meeting, we do some voting on a number of items. One of the things that we vote on is the budget for the year. And in your packet, you'll see that budget. It's laid out with the 2021 number on the left, the year to date in the middle, and then the 2022 proposed budget on the right. And just so folks understand how we get to this point, there are many iterations that happen. It starts with sort of a mapping over of all the things we know from last year to this year, things that we can project. Marilyn does a lot of that back legwork. It comes to the executive committee, they review it. It goes to the elder board for feedback. Then it comes back to the executive board for feedback or to work on it again. Then it goes back to the elder board again. So there's a number of iterations.
I only have 7 revisions.
7 revisions, yeah, so a whole bunch. There are things in here that went down. There are things in here that are new. I think the things that are in yellow are the things that are new to this next year. Is that right, Marilyn?
That's correct.
And some of those things are things that the elders felt like if we're going to prioritize these things, we need to put some effort there or resources there. So community groups, for instance, that's been a ministry method that our church has been focused on, but we haven't had a budget for community groups up until this year. The welcome team that Michelle just talked about, all kinds of people involved in that, an important part of our church's ministry. We hadn't had a budget for that until this year. Some opportunity there are resources for elders to continue their work, to grow. There are a number of changes as it relates to staffing and the office, where you can see later in this packet how our church has changed since 1984. Our average attendance this last year was at pre-COVID numbers. So in 2021, we were averaging pre-COVID numbers, even though we're still seeing effects of that from week to week. So our church has grown, and as a result, our budget is growing, our need for supporting our church is growing. And so one of the things that the executive board decided to do was to reconfigure the office. And so we have focus on the administrative functions in there, separate from the budget and business functions in there. And so that's in yellow. You'll kind of see some of those changes reflected there. The children's ministry assistant is a position that we've been working on hiring, and just recently we're able to fill. So that's great. Relationship building, again, things that we haven't been able to or haven't resourced before that were really important for our staff.
What is that?
So that's like the staff and the teaming and development that they need to do together. So it's a way to support our staff. At the end, you can see the final, what it looks like sort of all together. And these numbers on the bottom, the left two tie back to the report that Riker gave. So that bottom left number, that 431,171, that was our budgeted expenses for 21. like Riker mentioned in his report, we underspent that by about $50,000. That I think is a combination of a couple things. One is our ministry leads do a really good job of watching budget. Second, some of the things we weren't able to do this year still because we're dealing with, COVID stuff. But our ministry leads do a good job of watching budget. And then the middle column, that 387 and change ties back to the actual expenses through December. 498 is the budget that the executive board and the elders are recommending for approval. And I'll just say from a position as the chairman, this is, I don't know how many, I don't have 14 like Doug, but it's more than my first year. And I'm constantly, I shouldn't be amazed that God just continues to come through, but every year we have a budget that we look at and go, this is going to be a stretch. And every year it happens. So this isn't a budget that I look at and say, GREFC can do this on its own. And I think if we had a budget like that, we should rethink where we're at, right? This only works if God's here and he's been here. And so we have adjusted we're in a transition time with our pastoral staffing or with a contract through IPM. And then this year is the year that Lord willing, we'll have a salaried person back in there. So there's some transition in there too. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else from anyone else on the executive board or Quentin from the elder board that wants to add to that. This is kind of a big item. So I want to make sure we spend enough time answering questions on that. Anybody else have anything they want to say, Marilyn or Quentin? Any questions? That's on your ballot. And we'll collect those at the end. If you want to hang out and watch that sausage be made, you can. We also vote on new members, and Marge and Chris and Pam and Bill and Millie. That process in our church, there's a new membership course that our new members course that folks take to become acquainted with our church, and they learn about who we are, who they are, and our theological and philosophical beliefs, where we're headed as a church from a strategy perspective. And then there's a meeting with elders that happens, and we get to listen to people's story, which is really neat. And those folks that are listed in B all come recommended from the elders for membership. And then, and those are on your ballot as well. The green slip, there's a bunch in the back. Pastor Ron, thank you, has those. And so depends how you're going to vote, Jim. Yes, yeah. And then finally, C, one of the jobs, and Larry Curtis has been doing a yeoman's job on this. We have volunteer positions that we vote on every year. Lorraine Curtis has agreed to be up for that treasurer to fulfill Riker's last year or first year, depending on how you look at it, right, Riker? But Riker's been in that role for a number of years and transitioning out. So again, thank you for that service, Riker. Lorraine stepping in. So then Marilyn continuing in the financial secretary role. And then Vicky to be on the nominating committee for next year's nominations. So there'll be a rotation, and next year there'll be a couple elders up. I'll be up. I can't remember who else will be up. So there's a variety of positions we rotate through in the church every year. So those positions are all on the green ballot as well. Yes. Mm-hmm.
For those of you online, if you go back to the events calendar and look at the listing there, you'll have a link to go online and vote, and we'll be catching that here. So.
And voting is only up to members, correct?
Yep, members only. Yep. Thanks, Dan. Yeah.
I'm a little confused. I thought some of the elders were stepping down.
At this point, we don't. No, we don't have any new elders to vote on.
All right.
Yep. Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate that clarification. We have a couple individuals that are in a elders in training process that we started, and so that's cool and new. And so finding elders hasn't always been easy. So pray about that. But yeah, so I'm hoping that, or we're hoping that we'll have some candidates in the future there. So yeah, if you can fill out those ballots, let's see, if you, I don't, maybe Scott, can you collect those? While he's doing that, I think it's important to mention, we'll be having a meeting, and if it hits a quarterly meeting, that'll be great. But one of the things that has to happen as far as the pastor search and that process, our church will have to have a meeting and a vote. And it's like the supermajority of members that have to be present at that meeting in order to accept that recommendation, or whatever we want to call it. So that's something to sort of keep in mind in the future. There's also a constitutional / bylaw adjustment that we're looking at making. Some of it comes recommended from the Evangelical Free Church of America. Some of it just has to do with how we do business. Those changes also require a supermajority. So we'll probably do that at the same time, just because we'll know we'll have high participation in that meeting. I didn't yet know. Jim?
I think just to point the people that aren't members, obviously they can't vote, but we can certainly encourage them to participate in any discussions.
Yeah, yep, you bet, Jim. Thank you. Okay, let's see. What are we doing on our agenda here?
That's it.
That's it. Okay, anything else? If you hang out here, you can find out how the vote turns out. Right after the meeting, we'll count these ballots right now, but I don't know that we need to extend the meeting to do that.
Maybe a FYI, that new members will be officially welcomed in on Sunday morning.
Awesome.
The entire congregation will see who they are. You have a picture, I think, in the back.
Yeah. They have to sing their favorite hymn and stuff like that as part of the hazing thing. Okay, I'll pray and then we'll be adjourned. How's that sound? God, every year we have a meeting like this, and every year I think we should leave astounded and grateful for who you are, and your love for our church, your love for the church, your love for us individually, demonstrated by your sacrifice, and the way that you take care of us like a father. We just have seen your blessing on our church in so many ways, your hand on it, just even tonight, answer to prayer after answer to prayer after answer to prayer. And we just thank you for that. Thank you for the talents and the gifts and the way you've equipped our church to minister to each other, to our congregation, to our community. And Lord, we pray that we would be diligent in answering that call and being your church and being the kingdom for our community. Thank you for all those here tonight. I pray that your hand would be on us as we travel home with safety. And I pray that, God, as we continue to search and look to you for our next pastor, that you'll continue to guide. Thank you so much for that team, for the effort that they put in, the time, the earnestness that they're seeking you. And God, we just pray that you continue to guide that group's work and just bless the people that are working so hard at that too. So again, we can continue your ministry here. Ask all these things in your name. Amen. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Matt. Sandy.